specific things, whatever. And disclaimer, I am not an uploading DD, so I have actually no idea what I'm talking about. So all my information is secondhand, so please help, okay? Firstly, I think the question that we get most often is, do you have to use Debian on your desktop to be a DD or to be active in Debian or to contribute to Debian? And you do not. You don't have to, because I think, oops, sorry, that was me. Leave it. The most useful thing about Debian, I think by general consensus, is as a server architecture because of its stability. So myself, I use Ubuntu on the desktop, which is a branch or a child or whatever of Debian. So the first thing is, you don't have to be a uber geek to contribute and to help to Debian. Go away, Tiago. Okay, so I was trying to do research on this and I was totally stuck and the event was coming closer, and eventually I asked Daniel, I don't know what to say, I don't know why Debian is better. And so he was like, well, have you tried ChatGPT? So I did. And so there was a couple of answers that was very generic, so I didn't use them. This is the risk with, okay, pause, there's some tissues in the front there. Or use a t-shirt or something. Then I got so excited from us talking about it. Oh dear. Okay. So unlike Daniel, Debian is known for its stability and long-term support. And so that's why it's really good for servers. And it's highly customizable. So I think those are two very important reasons for Debian. But Ubuntu, on the other hand, which is based on Debian, is more geared towards desktop users. So it's more user-friendly, but it is based by a commercial company. And so that changes how you interact and what you may use. But so neither of them are wrong. It just depends on what you want to do. And you can be part of Ubuntu and contribute to Debian and vice versa. Okay, so in summary, close it all. Debian, why Debian? Upstream first, which I'll explain now. It's reliable, stable, while being flexible, which I think is a very interesting combination. And it has a very niche community. And so this is why I'm part of Debian, because I just love this community and what they stand for and what they believe in. And then as a postscript, I suppose, I added the gamification app option. I am in a relationship with a active uploading DD, and I will show you the screen that whenever I go over to him, this is the screen I see. And I think he's totally addicted, and this is why. So, okay, so what is upstream first? So firstly, I don't know how to explain what a software package is, so I used ChatGPT. I don't know if someone else here wants to say, what is your understanding of what is a package? So it's like a collection of all the little bits and pieces that you need to run a component or a software application. And so I'm not going to read all of this out, but I think this answer is a pretty good one. And so go to the talk or the video afterwards, or like ask an AI of your choice. But it's basically a little piece of thing that gets packaged to work with the distribution or operating system of your choice. And so what is upstream first? This is the idea that instead of everyone working on their own little mission, and I think Jose's talk hinted to this, and sort of try and keep everything up to date and organized on your own, you go to the most common distribution upstream. So I don't know if someone else can explain this better than I can. Want to give a shot at it? Yes.
If you fix a translation or a bug on the actual software, like on LibreOffice, if you use LibreOffice and you find some bug in there and you fix it in there, then every Windows user, Mac user, Debian user, Ubuntu user, whatever, they will all benefit from it because you contributed upstream. So you contributed to the right, to the top of the source of
the original source code. Yeah.
So if you fix only on Debian, the rest of the distributions won't benefit from it. But if you go to the upstream of everything, then everyone will benefit.
Yeah. So if you're working on Linux or Ubuntu, but you put the package into Debian, Ubuntu and Linux and the other ones will benefit. But if you only do it in Ubuntu and someone wants it in Linux, you're going to have to find someone in Ubuntu to, like, I don't know, give you permissions or something. And so this is a good sort of ideology and approach to use in open source communities in general, and Debian is that upstream thing. Okay. And so just as an example, again, Ubuntu packages go upstream to Debian. And just a personal example, again, my partner was involved in Ubuntu before he was active in Debian. So he started with Linux and then moved to Ubuntu. And at some point, the Debian people got tired of him pushing all his stuff. And so they were like, look, I know you love Ubuntu more, but maybe it's time for you to join Debian. And he's very active in Debian. He loves Debian now. So that's sort of, that's like a natural progression of how it happened. So I think the Debian community itself is a very valuable reason to be part of Debian. I think, as you've seen in this MiniDebConf, we're a bunch of different eccentric, like everyone has their own little project and strongly held opinions, and all of that has a place here. And then also, if you have very specific niche projects, if you are willing to maintain that package or that component or that whatever it is, you know, the cheese and wine tradition, whatever it is, if you're willing to maintain it, it can live here. There's a place for you. And apart from what that means from a community perspective, you know, Miguel was talking about the ideology and the politics and, you know, how we make this work as a way of life. So I think Debian is an example to do that as like I call it a proto-civilization. It also means that it's a very flexible community and distribution operating system. And so, and I found this and I forgot to link the reference, but I'll add it before I put the slides online. This lady was saying with Debian, you can build out exactly the system that you want. Doesn't matter how extreme or unusual it is. And I just think that is amazing. So I would definitely say this is the reason why I am still part of Debian and why I love it so much. Okay, so then the gamification. And I think this is almost the last slide of the talk. So after this, we can go to the website and just show you some web pages that you might enjoy. But when I come speak to Graham, not this one, the first thing I see is this page. And generally, when he's feeling that he's had a hard day, he clicks all the packages that has succeeded in building, I think, and so you just get this wall. And so his game is to get all these little blocks green. And so at any given moment that I go and look at Graham's screen, that's what I'm going to see. And so I think he's totally addicted to this, and this is the game that he plays, basically. So I think, let me just finish. Okay, so yeah, so okay, let's finish with a talk first. Oh no, that's not going to work. Okay, so before you apply, there's a couple of things that you might want to do, and that is why I think, and I think Debian and Daniel and Carson, this is what you've been saying to people who've been asking you about how to become a DD. The first thing is not to apply to become a DD. The first thing is to get involved. And one of the first things, like the most hardest thing, is to create the login to get you into the website. So things like creating a Salsa account, understanding what a Salsa account is. I do not know, someone else can maybe explain. I just know that I needed to have one.
Short explain what Salsa is. What Salsa is.
Yes, can you do that?
I can try. Salsa is the name for the GitLab instance Debian is using for the version control system for the packaging and other stuff. So if someone says you need to create an account on Salsa, this means nothing more than you need an account on the GitLab instance where Debian is doing that stuff, like Bernelle is showing currently.
Yeah, I'm just hoping I'm not. I don't think there's anything confidential, but whatever. Yes.
Yeah, that's a permission question, but basically you need the account, but different account can have different permissions and that's practice.
But all the Debian project is one repository.
No, so we have, I think it's 50,000 Git project. Right now it's still growing.
Is there a link that lists all of those?
Probably not directly.
No.
You need to go somewhere on the dashboard and count some numbers somewhere, I think.
Yeah, and I think this is more for Deb. Like I'm more involved in the DebConf stuff as well.
There's for sure somewhere website.
Yeah. I was just wondering if we, like, if you can find it and maybe post it on Mattermost, and then I just read to document it. I should have closed all of that, but I wasn't bothered. Don't start spamming me. Like, okay. So yeah, so firstly is like getting the salsa account, which is a Git instance of the Debian projects. And then I think also very importantly is understanding how the Debian culture works. We do have a lot of beginners who just come in and start a flame war, and why don't you do it like this? Because this works better, and not understanding that the people who have been part of Debian has been how many years for you? More than 20?
A decade? No,
No, not quite.
more than a decade.
More than a decade. I think Daniel's been much more than a decade, maybe 2 decades. I think Jose said something like more than 20 years, but you became a DG in 2017. These are guys who's figured stuff out. There's a reason why things are done a certain way. And so coming in and just trying to make things work the way you want them to work is not the right way to get involved. And also, like when I wanted to just contribute, but then you're asking people to sacrifice their time to teach you things that really you should rather be figuring out yourself. But what you can do is find something that is important to you. Why are you here? For whatever reason, and work on that. And then over time, you can figure out like, oh, but for this to work, what is important to me, I need this other thing to work that's maybe important to somebody else. And then through that, I think typically you would join a team. So I've got the list of teams here. So this is just wiki.debian.org teams. Let's see if I can make it bigger. Yeah?
Yep.
Okay. And the other thing with the Debian websites, both the wiki and otherwise, like don't try and find a sitemap. You're just going to have to do a web search for what you want or ask someone to find the link for you. It's hard. But so I was saying, well, maybe I want to look at the games because I'm really interested in how we can use games in science. And so there's a Debian games team, and I'm not going to click on it in this talk. And then below that, there's a Debian GIS team. So these are a good way to start figuring out what's going on. The maths and I know the MED team is very active mainly because of Andreas. But so you can, find a team where you just like the people. Like it doesn't even have to be about the work that you do. And the way that you do that for someone who's maybe shy is come to a DebConf, and you're like, I really like this guy. I've been having a lot of beers with him or went on walks or whatever. And that's a way to get involved, So it's a very organic way. There's not really a formal structure for that. Once you, okay, so I'm just going to, okay, and then there's also, if you are a little bit more technical, or you want to get in a more technical way, there are packages that are orphaned or that needs to be adopted. And so those are also really a good way to start because someone has expressed the need for help. And so they've already reached out. And so I will put this link on there as well. Okay, so then if you, I think this one was the, okay, so then if you're ready, you've been involved for a little bit and you're ready to become more involved, then you want to become a Debian member. I think you start with being a maintainer. And is there a different hierarchy or anything between a maintainer and a developer? Would you always become a maintainer first and then a developer? No?
A maintainer is basically a person that is supporting a few packages. So they own those packages, but they don't have the right to upload anything or everything. They can be given the right to upload those specific packages by a developer. The maintainer is not a project member, so they are not allowed to vote in the elections. They are not, on Debian private or things like these. This is what is basically the perks of being a Debian developer. Whether uploading or not uploading, the social aspects are the same. You get voting rights, you get access to all the infrastructure and so on. But your GPG key will just not be good enough to sign a package if you haven't gone through the technical qualification of basically proving that you know the things well enough that we can trust you to mess with the archive.
Okay. So just for the sake of the video, I think that gets captured, but just to summarize it, so a Debian maintainer can maintain a list of packages that they are interested in, but they cannot upload that. They need a developer to sponsor it, so it's a security measure. And the additional perks of being a Debian developer is voting rights, and so maybe a more political contribution to the project.
Just
So,
for the sake of complete correctness, they can upload packages, a specific list of packages, if they have been given that right specifically. So if you maintain 3 packages and you've been doing that for a year, I'm pretty sure the DD that has reviewed your packages in the past would at some point in time grant you those upload rights directly.
Okay.
But it only applies to those 3 packages then. Whereas a full DD, so to say, can basically upload any package and get into troubles with everybody on the project if they want to. There's no technical barrier.
okay, so a
There's only
Debian
social
maintainer can upload their specific packages that permission has been granted, and so that's a very, so I think the process of how you get involved in Debian is very well managed and very well facilitated, both from a social and a technical point of view. So this page, debian.org/devel, gives you everything, like the organization, the people, the policy manual, how to join Debian, the database if you want to find people. There's like so much. I lost a couple of hours looking through all of this, and then probably.
Short, this is the page you need to start and you need to read and understand quite everything on the page, every link. It takes time, but that's the starting point.
Okay.
No matter if you want to become a Debian maintainer or even later a developer.
How's that?
It's the most important side with all the information.
Yeah, and it's very nicely, just looks good, man. Okay, so then I clicked on, so this is a couple of months, years down the line, how to join Debian. There's the free software guidelines, a social contract, and then when you're ready, you can go to the new members corner, which I think is this one. And so I just went through this process just before Christmas, I think, and Ubik was my, what were you, my application manager? And that was great, thank you so much. And so that's someone who mentors you and takes you through the whole process, and you have an email exchange with them just to teach you and show you how the culture works and make sure you're a good fit for the project. And I think that was everything I wanted to show you. So I've showed you those links. There was some other links. I think this one you shared with me as well, Daniel. Don't break Debian. Oh, this was because I'm a Franken Debian user. So there's like all sorts of wiki pages on all sorts of things, and really just get lost into the wiki and find all sorts of things. I think Ubik also shared something about the social interactions, but I think I've lost that link now. So there's so many resources which you would expect from a community like this. But I just wanted to end with, I think it's pretty obvious that you should join Debian.